Well, hi there and welcome once again to Burton on Humber. This will be a review video, and I'm going to review the East Coast Flying Scotsman pack from Hornby, and it comes with a Class 91 loco and DVT, so the driver van trailer, and it also comes with a couple of open standard coaches as well. Okay, so we can see the pack here. Have a look at that, turn it around, look on the other side. So on the back of the pack, it has some information about the other coaches that are available outside of this kit. So you can also get a first class coach, R4540. You can also get another open standard coach, and that's R4541. And you can get yourself a buffet coach as well, and that's R4542. And this particular kit, it's down here in the corner, and you can see there that is R3133. Okay, so it's the East Coast Flying Scotsman train pack. So we'll open it up and have a look. So I'll take it out of the box. I know some people are sort of interested in the box, I'm not so much. But yeah, so it has just a cardboard sleeve with the information. Inside you've got a foam box, and on top of there's stuck down this piece of cardboard with a sort of small warning sign on there, basically about the pantograph, saying that you can operate this train either with the pantograph or via the track, but you can't operate it as both due to changes with DCC control systems. Okay, then within the pack itself, you've got the four items there, so you can see the DVT down the bottom, and then you've got the other two standard coaches in the middle, and the loco right at the top there. We'll pull those out in a moment and have a look at them. Normally they come wrapped up in tissue paper, but I've already taken that off. Also in the box you get instructions as well, so about your locomotive operation and maintenance. It comes with a ring-filled motor. I believe it's a 5-pole motor, which is a lot better than the 3-pole ones. Gives a smoother operation and so on. And it's got maintenance about how you lubricate it, how you run it in, safety notes, that sort of thing, how you gain access to the motor, replacing the motor brushes and springs, how to clean the motor commutator, again lubrication, and there's some more information on the back about the dummy pantographs and how they spring up and so on, and using the overhead power supply, and there's also information there about the bodywork and the traction tyres. We'll have a look at the actual items themselves. I think we'll start off with the DVT down at the bottom there. So there's holes on the back of this where you can put your fingers through to push them out. So I'll take that out there. And yeah, so we have the DVT. So have a bit of a look there. We'll have a closer look in a moment. So we'll pull them all out and then we'll have a closer look. So we pull out one of the standard coaches here. Just ease that out so don't break it or anything. Okay, so here we have coach B, and that's the standard coach for the silent coach. There's a first class one as well, which I believe normally is coach K, I believe. Okay, and then you've got coach C here, which is just your normal standard open coach. And then the final item that you have here is the loco itself, so your Class 91, but also known as the Intercity 225 for the train, and that's based around the idea that the train does 225 kilometres an hour, so 140 miles an hour, and was sort of a replacement for the Intercity 125. That was sort of the earlier model of this, really. Okay, so we've got the actual loco there, so we'll bring that down, have a bit of a look. Okay, so just a little bit of history about the East Coast Flying Scotsman, sort of in its modern form. The predecessor to the Intercity 225 was the BR 125. That ran from 1976 through to 1990, and after that it was replaced with the Intercity 225, and yeah, that was initially with British Rail as well. And then in 1996, when BR was disbanded, then it was taken over by GNER, and that continued to be the case up until 2007, after which National Express took it over for a couple of years before they sort of gave up that franchise. They weren't able to run it. So that went through until 2009, after which a public company, East Coast, took over, and that went through from, I think it was sort of late 2009 until the present day. It is looking sort of next year that might actually go back to being privatised, although it's a little bit up in the air and there's a lot of discussion about it, and people are quite keen on it still being in public company, but we'll see how we go with that. So that's a little bit of history about it. Okay, so we have a look at a bit of the loco itself. Looking here at the front, so we've got obviously the sort of the moulded windows, and they're not too bad. And then we have the Flying Scotsman sort of modernised logo, and that's quite nice looking. And then there's sort of individual sort of access panels either side of the logo there. Below that we have written the Flying Scotsman, and then below that we have the lights. Now, one of the problems with this particular model by Hornby is the fact that it's a bit outdated and it doesn't actually have proper lights. So you don't have any sort of cab lights, you don't have any sort of lights on the loco and on the DVT or anything, so they're really just stuck on decals. I thought that the grille in the middle there was also just a decal, but you actually find that actually does have a grille attached to it. It's got a bit of a surface texture there and so on, so I was quite surprised that they had applied that. Then looking further down on the bottom here, we've got obviously the two buffers. They're not sprung at all. There's no coupling put onto the front of this. It does have a little representation of a coupling. That doesn't really have a very good representation of that, but there is a bit of a representation of a coupling there. What it doesn't have is there's no accessories comes with this pack at all. There's no pipes or anything. It does have some holes here that, if I bring this in a little bit closer, I don't really want to get in the way of the light. If I bring that in a little bit closer, you can see that there are actually holes there, so where you can fit in some pipes, but they weren't provided at all. And then we do have a representation of the Pullman rubbing plate here, so that sort of piece here. But yeah, there's no pipe, so there's no main reservoir pipe. There should be a main reservoir pipe just here, and there should be some air brake pipes as well. There's no representation of the electrical train supply point here, and again on this side there should be an electrical train supply jumper cable, but yeah, they don't have any of that, so it really is in need of accessories. It is in need of a bit of an upgrade in terms of having lighting and so on. You'll notice even things like it doesn't actually have any windscreen wipers on here. On the actual train there's also a camera in the back here, sort of a forward facing camera, although you wouldn't really expect that they would model that. However, there's just a few little things that really are missing, but the main thing is it's a bit unforgivable these days to not really have lights installed. We really sort of expect a little bit more these days, so they could do to bring this particular tooling up to date a bit more. But as I say, they have updated it and they've put in so make it DC ready, and there has been a few sort of changes that they've done to it. Moving along here, we've got reasonable sort of detail around the door. It looks like they're actually just moulding, so they haven't been sort of individually fitted pieces there for the rails for the door. However, they are fairly inset on the train anyway, so you probably don't really need it to be sort of extra fitted and so on, or retrofitted. You do have the warning there. There's little symbols here for the sand and the water. So water this one, sand on that one. There is some very tiny writing just above the pinstripe there on the door, which I can't quite make out at the moment. Not quite sure what this division sort of symbol looking thing stands for. I must look that up at some stage. Again, on the footstep, whatever you call it, the footplate, I guess, to get up into the cabin, it's really just a solid block on the model, whereas on the actual train it is a rail more, so not so well represented there, but I guess it doesn't matter too much. One thing that is sort of noticeable is that on the actual trains, on this side of the train, on the loco rather, normally on the loco you do have this grille set up where you've got one grille at the front and one at the back, and then just a single one in the middle. However, on this side of the actual loco, normally you've got that same sort of pattern where there's one at either end, but in the middle here there's actually two grills, and it doesn't look like they've actually bothered to do that with this model. They've basically made it the same on both sides. So yeah, it's a little bit sort of disappointing that they've missed out a few little things like that. However, you know, probably neither here nor there, I guess, for that. Okay, and then over here you do have a representation of these two little grills here, and the overhead warning symbol. What you don't have is on the front of the loco. They don't, just below the window here, there's normally a overhead warning symbol here as well, and it's a couple of little sort of inset devices. I'm not quite sure what those are for, but they're probably actually for the windscreen wipers for their water, for the jets and so on. But they haven't got the windscreen wipers, and they haven't put those little recesses in either. Okay, then looking at a little further along the loco itself, they do have a really nice representation of the gradient going back from the purple into the silver, which looks quite nice. They have the overhead warning symbol here. Again, it's just moulded for the door handles and so on, obviously not opening doors. But yes, I mean, overall, I think it's quite a pleasing looking model. We could just do with a bit of an upgrade to the tooling, bring it up to speed, put in some cab lights, put in some lights, obviously for the actual running lights and so on as well. Yeah, so looking at the end here again, it's very similar to the front. So at the front of the loco, you've basically got the raked end. So this is the front end of it, and then at the rear end of it, you have this slab end, as they call it. And again, you've got the windows there. There's no sort of windscreen wipers or anything. And again, your lights are just represented by decals there. The coupling rather is just sort of one of those almost old style sort of Hornby wide tension couplings. Other than that, it's not bad looking. I mean, the grille and everything down the bottom looks quite good. I do see that there are extra accessories around where you can replace this grille, I guess maybe just to give it a little bit better detail, but actually the representation of it is not too bad. So yeah, so that's the loco overall. If we have a look at the roof of it, so if I lift that up and have a bit of a look, so obviously we have the pantograph there, and there's again moulded representations of a vent and some access points and so on. But yeah, they are, unlike a lot of the modern locos, it doesn't have, you know, an actual inserted grille and so on. That's sort of retrofitted. Yeah, so they do obviously have a representation of the pantograph. That's not too bad. You can see through inside the loco there. I gather that's for the pickup for when you're running the pantograph for the power. And I imagine this is some sort of electrical conductor or something of some sort. Runs down to these coils here, and then you've got the actual pantograph itself, which sort of pops up. And yeah, so you can run it through the pantograph, or you can run it through the wheels with the track. We'll have a look underneath it in a moment. So pop that back down. Yeah, so looking underneath the loco there, which I always seem to get the wrong way round. Yeah, so you can see that it's got the usual made in China and the Hornby symbol there. The rear bogie is freewheeling. It's not powered at all. It does have a little bit of a representation of a tank and so on there. And then at the front you actually have the bogie that is powered, and that has all four wheels powered. It has actually added all four wheels have pickups, which I believe is one of the improvements that they made to this tooling of the model, that they haven't actually tooled the body differently, but they have improved the bogies and the motor. So they have sort of made some improvements to it, but again, the overall tooling could really do to be improved and brought up to date. Okay, so yeah, that's the loco. So we'll move on and have a look at the DVT next, I think. Okay, well, moving on to have a look at the DVT. It's fairly similar to the loco. The idea is that yes, you'd run this at the other end, so that way when the train is in push mode, it doesn't really look like the train is running backwards. Okay, so the DVT, as I say, is fairly similar to the loco. The first obvious difference is that it doesn't have a pantograph on top because it's not really powered. It has these two very large doors on the side here. This is mostly because it's used for sort of large baggage and storage area and so on. There's also a guard's room as well, and then there's a full width cab at the front there. Again, it's very sort of a similar sort of setup. You've got the purple Flying Scotsman logo, and then it has the Flying Scotsman written underneath. Again, we have the lighting clusters there, which are just decals and not installed lights. We have the grille, which is an actual grille again. And then below that there's these three circles. I'm not quite sure what they represent. I assume that they're not lights because we've got the lights here. I don't know whether maybe there's some sort of camera or something, or whether they're just an extra set of lights. I'm not quite sure. Okay, then again we've got the buffers. There's a slight representation of the coupling there, and there's holes where we should be able to put in the air brake pipes and the main reservoir pipes and so on, but again they haven't been provided. Yeah, so we've got the number here, so 82205. So we've got the railings there, which are again inset and moulded, but they're sort of individually painted, so they look quite good. The same with the door handles. Again, we have some writing, in very small writing above the pinstripe there. Okay, so yes, we've got the pinstripe running down the side in purple. We've got another pinstripe running around the top in orange there as well, and that's also on the Loco. There's a couple of grid representations here and here as well, and that's fairly true to the actual DVT. Again, over the bogies there, we've sort of got these flanges that are sort of sticking out above the bogie, and again, that's fairly accurate. The side piece here for all the tanks and so on, that's a fairly accurate representation of it from what I've looked at the on the real ones there. At the back here we've got a warning symbol for the overhead power and so on, and we've got a representation of the door where it goes through, because you can actually go through here on the DVT as opposed to the slab end on the Loco. This one the guard can come into the room and so on and get to the baggage and all that sort of thing. Yeah, so that actually will join up with the valance to the coaches. And then basically the other side of the DVT is sort of identical to the other side, except in reverse. Yeah, so that's the DVT. So move on and have a look at the coaches there. The two. Okay, so if we move on to have a look at the two standard coaches that come with the train pack. So this one is coach B, which if I pick that up and bring it in so we can have a little bit closer look at that. So that focuses in. Yeah, so this is our coach B. Yeah, we've got the door. It has a warning symbol on the door here. Then we have just like a representation of where you open the door. There's a little warning symbol of some sort there. I can't quite make that out, as in tiny writing. And then we have the coach number, so that's B. There's a no smoking warning symbol there. And then we have again an inset handrail and a couple of sort of little access points there as well, which is where I believe they possibly open up the coach when it's sort of locked if you're a guard and so on. And then moving sort of further down, having a look at the coach body. Over here we have the website address, so www.eastcoast.co.uk, which I go to fairly often and spend lots of money on. Then we've got the bogies underneath, and there's again the representation of the flange sort of that goes over the top of those. Underneath we've got again some sort of tank area as well, and again that's a fairly accurate representation. They're sort of where all the markings are fairly accurate to where they are on the actual Loco itself. If we move on and have a look at the windows though, there are some sort of inaccuracies with it. So where we've got all the long windows, they're fairly accurate. But what we have at this end, where we've got these two windows, that doesn't tend to be the case on Mark IVs for the East Coast train. Normally there's two different sorts that you get on the coaches, depending which way round it is sort of running and how they're set up. Some of them, they actually have just the one window here, and then this one is actually just a silver body, the same as the rest of it around it. And then you also get where these two windows aren't here at all, so all of this is silver and just a silver body. So it isn't as though the windows blanked out, they're not there. So they're the two sort of formations that you do get with these coaches. You always have the long windows all the way down the side, but as I say, there's either both of these little windows aren't there, or you get it where just one of the little windows is, but the other one isn't there. They're not quite accurate with the windows. The other thing that is sort of immediately noticeable is that the windows should really be tinted, whereas they're not at all in this case. The seating inside is fairly good. If I bring that in and so you can actually have a look at the seating. The colour is all wrong. Normally it's actually sort of a purpley blue on the East Coast trains. But the actual position of where the tables are, so the fact that you've got two sort of seats, like individual seats, and then one table, and then maybe another table, and then another couple of individual seats, that's fairly accurate. Towards the back here where we've got this baggage area, that isn't really, that's sort of normally blocked off more, so normally you wouldn't see that part through the window. The first seat that you see is those couple of individual single seats at the back. As I know, because that's where I normally sit. Okay, so the seating's fairly accurate, but it could do to be sort of a more accurate colour. And as I say, the windows should be tinted. This one's coach B, and then the only other difference with the other coach is basically exactly the same, but if you have a look here, it's numbered differently, so you can see that's actually coach C. Okay, so that's the train pack for Hornby R3133. Which is the East Coast Intercity 225 in the Flying Scotsman livery, and that's for the DVT and for the loco, and it comes with the two standard coaches in East Coast livery in the sort of silver with the purple pinstripe. Okay, so I'll leave it there. I will do another review of the other three coaches, so we'll have a look at the buffet coach, which is coach H. We'll have a look at the first class coach, which is coach M, and we'll look at the other standard coach, which is coach D. And I guess the next thing to do is get this onto the track, and we'll see how it performs. Okay, so I've got the test track set up there, so just drop down a couple of boards on top of the table, set up a loop of track, and just a couple of bits of scenery around just to add some interest. And yeah, so this is obviously not my actual layout, it's just what I use for running in trains and so on. Okay, and I'll just try just adding just a little bit of power here. So on the gauge itself, just coming up to the mark that says off actually, but I can see that there's a little bit of movement from the train there. I'll slow that down, so you can see that moves quite slowly but quite smoothly. Yes, that's not bad at all. Put it into reverse. And the same thing, there's not really any sort of juddering there. I gather that's the 5-pole motor sort of kicking in. That's a lot smoother action than the 3-pole. And yes, that's quite impressive considering I've only just run this in a little bit. So I've put on the other two standard coaches and put on the DVT on the back there as well. Okay, so give it a little bit of power here. It does run quite smoothly. Slight pause going over the point there. We'll give it a bit more speed. But yeah, there we have it. It's the R3133 Flying Scotsman train pack with East Coast livery by Hornby. I'll just speed that up, make it a little bit more like the high-speed train that it actually is. I think I had probably if I had all 9 coaches, I don't think it would fit on this loop. It would literally be chasing his tail, I believe, so. Gradually picking up speed. And there it is basically at max speed. You can see it moves pretty quickly. I'm not quite sure that that's completely accurate. However, as I say, when you do see these trains come through the stations in Grantham and York, they really are built along, so it could be that this is actually quite accurate. Okay, we'll slow it down a little bit. And there we have it, the R3133, East Coast Flying Scotsman, Intercity 225 by Hornby.